Hi, I'm Audrey. I'm one of the brand ambassadors for Sympatex Europe, and today I'm going to show you a short tutorial on how to make fantasy flowers in a hat box. So let's begin. First of all, you're going to need a hat box. I've already prepared this hat box with some dry floral foam in here. I've only put it about halfway down so that we can create a bit of depth in the hat box. We're going to do some fantasy flowers like this, and I'm going to teach you how to make one of these stems as well. And then I'll show you how to put it all together and make your hat box look beautiful and expensive, and you can upsell it and you can create a beautiful display to show your clients, a long-lasting display, a lot longer than having florals or having flowers from a florist or anything like that. So it's a really good way to sell your flowers. So first of all, you're going to need some floristry wire. It's about 40 centimeters long. And you're going to need a latex. I like using the printed latex as well. It looks absolutely beautiful when you're doing a flower. You can use plain latex as well. It looks gorgeous when you put it all together, but I've chosen the one with the dots on. What we're going to do is we're going to bend the floristry wire in half and create, there you go, in half, and create an insertion point. It's got to be as big as the nozzle of your latex, right? So we're going to put it in there, and we have to pull the latex down really, really hard. Make sure there's no air in your latex. Pull it down really, really hard, and you're going to hold it in place, and then you're going to take some floristry wire. This is a thinner floristry wire, and we're going to wrap it really, really tight. The trick of fantasy flowers is to wrap everything really, really tight. There's no air in anything. You're just manipulating your latex. So I'm wrapping this floristry wire nice and tight. You can see I'm holding it in place and I'm pulling really, really tight. And then we're going to cut it. I have some wire cutters here. And then I'm going to just bend those ends into place. Now, because it's quite sharp and we are using all latex, we want to cover that little bit as well. So we're going to cover it with a 260. And before we do that, we're going to take this excess latex from the tip of your 12-inch and we're going to just cut it off where we don't need that bit. Okay, so we've cut it off. We discard of that. And we're going to take, I usually use a 160, take the air out of a 160, and then I'm going to wrap the wire that I've secured the latex to the floristry wire with, and I'm just going to wrap that around a little bit. So I leave the end a little bit so that I can tie it in, and I'm just going to wrap it nice and tight. And this is just one of the petals. And then because I've left that little end there, I can tie it to the rest of that 160. And then I'm just going to trim the edges like this. So that's your first petal. Now you're going to make about 5 of these, and then we're going to manipulate them. So we're going to manipulate them like this. So here you can see I've done one before, and I've opened it up. And this is the style that I want to create with that. So you can create different styles, just try and make them all the same. So all my petals look pretty much the same. But because it's a flower, you can get away with being a little bit more organic with your designs. But as long as you have the same kind of technique to create your petal. So I'm going to create another petal. So I've got my floristry wire inside my latex, and I'm just going to gently, try not to do it if you've got really long nails, try and use your fingers, not your nails, to pull it apart. I'm just going to gently pull the latex apart and create the same kind of shape that I did before. So this one, I'm going to pull apart, and then I'm going to just manipulate and bend to form the shape. It doesn't need a lot of manipulation, just need to open it up a bit. So make sure your floristry wire is thick enough to manipulate, but not too thick. Also not too thin. Your floristry wire can't be too thin either, because otherwise it'll just bend in on itself. There you go. So So those all look pretty much the same, as you can see. This is a playing process. This is great to do while you're watching telly. You want to just create a whole lot of petals beforehand, just while you're doing nothing. Okay, so that's the outside of my flower. And I am going to create the little stamen as well before I put it all together, so that you can see how I put it all together to create a flower that we're going to eventually put inside our hat box. So the little stamen inside are basically 160s, and you are going to need a full 160 because you just really want the tips and you want the round end of the tip. So I just blow a little bit of air in. I keep it nice and tight, and then I move the air down to where I think that the stamen's going to go, and that's a pretty good judge of how far I want it. Then I'm going to tie a knot in it, and I'm going to do the other two as well. I'm going to make them all the same size, like that. And the last one. Just like that. I'm actually going to tie them all together into a knot, and I'm going to cut all the ends off except for one, because I'm going to add that to my flower. So I've tied it all in a knot, so I've got the 3 stems just like that. I'm going to cut the other 2 off, and we'll keep a long bit on the last one. Now we're going to add it all together to form our flower, and it's all a matter of just lying it where you feel that it needs to lay. So I put the petals on top of each other like that. I put the middle bit, the stamen, on the end there. You can see I'm just going to add my flowers into a design with all the ends together. If you do distortion, same kind of thing. You're just adding all the petals together. You can always manipulate the wire to suit once your flower is in place. So that's all together now. Now we need to make sure that it's nice and tight, and that your flower's not going to go anywhere. Just going to pull that stamen down a little bit tighter. You can even use that to group it all together until we can put it together. So I don't put more floristry wire around this. I just use a 260 or a 160 to secure my flower all together. And you can re-manipulate it once you've got it all together. So I just take my 160 again. And I'm going to just wrap it really, really tight all the way down. I know it looks a bit messy, but we're going to cover all that up. It's all just the inner workings of the flower. Okay, so it's going to look a bit like that. It does look a bit messy, but what we're going to do is we're going to first of all add our stem to the flower, and we're just going to gently wiggle it in. Just find a little bit of takes a little bit of brute force and ignorance. We're just going to wiggle it in there like that. And to make it look pretty, what I do is I take a little bit of green floristry tape, and you just wrap it around the stem so it actually looks like it's part of the flower. So green floristry tape, and we're just going to wrap it around the flower, and we're going to hide all those workings inside there, and it also secures the stem to the flower part. Keep going all the way around. You can go back on yourself as well. These flowers are absolutely beautiful if you want to add to displays, if you want to keep them, if you want to do one, if you do weddings and stuff like that. You can do your fantasy flowers. You can take them back when you're finished and you can just reuse them. They last absolutely years and they're so pretty and they look like real flowers. So there you go, there's my tape and there is your fantasy flower. You can just re-manipulate the petals to suit and put that stamen back inside. So it's really easy to manipulate. So I've got 2 now and I'm going to add that to my hat box. I'm going to cut the stem a little bit shorter. So we've got those 2. I made a little lily, so the same idea, but I just created with one petal, and it's a lily with a little stamen in. So I did the same thing. I added the green at the bottom, and it looks really, really pretty. So you can, less is more sometimes. So you can just do a lily, and then I'm going to teach you how to do one of these as well. So a little floristry piece. It's only done with 260s and a piece of floristry wire. And I'll show you how. I always cut the nozzle end of the 260 off and save it. And I'm going to show you a little tip and trick for this design. So save the end of your 260 there, and I'm going to snip the tip of it off so that it can fit in the floristry wire. I take it all the way down and scrunch it up. And then at the end there, I'm going to add that nozzle that I've just taken off, and it just forms a little elastic band to keep that end into place, and it will slide up and down the floristry wire as well. So just, there you go, you see? So I've added the nozzle of the 260 on the end, and you can slide it up and down your floristry wire. And then we're just going to push it down in place like that, and we're going to do 2 more. So I do 3 260s on one of the on a thing there, but don't snip the last one off. I'll show you in a minute. Hang on a sec. So we're going to do 1 more. I'm taking off that little nozzle, slip it down, and then the last one, again taking off the little nozzle. This time I'm not taking the top end of the 260 off, I'm leaving it on. I'm going to slowly put it down, and you don't want it to poke through the end there, so we're going to hold it in place, and we're going to take the little nozzle that we cut off, and we're going to just add it to the top there, and I'm going to just twist it round once, and that just holds it all in place. And then you can maneuver the 260 up and down the stem to create whatever design you want. You can create one with a bit more 260 straight, or you can just make it all rouged up like that. And then you can bend your stick to create a little bit more movement for your design, like that. So now I've created my elements for my hat box. I'm going to show you how to assemble it all together. So this design I created, I sell a lot of them and I think they work beautifully. We're going to create the design going from big to small in front, so it's a front facing box. I sometimes do some vinyl or some extra prettiness on the front there, but today I'm just going to show you how to assemble the fantasy flower hat box together. So we work from the back to the front, and at the back I use the longest artificial flowers. I usually use foliage, and I'm going to frame the back of the fantasy hat box by just adding some foliage at the back there. You can always manipulate it as we go along. So here I'm just using some ferns at the back. Anything long and spiky and tall, anything that can be manipulated. Artificial flowers are great. If you can buy them online. You can buy a whole big batch of them and you can use them for a lot of hat boxes. These can sell really, really well. If you price them correctly, it's a very, very good profitable design. Also, you can box these up and ship them off. Like you can do a tea balloon, you can ship them off as well. So it's a great thing to put in a box, and you can sell them online. It's a good way to make some extra money. Right, I'm going to add my big flowers next. So we always work from big to small. So I'm going to add my big flowers, then I know where they fit in my box. And I'm going to add a few little artificial flowers as well. And then extra foliage. So they just slide into the box. It's all about just eyeing everything up and seeing where everything fits. I like to use different elements. I like to use different florals, different foliage. Then I'm going to add the lilies that I added earlier. I think the lilies are a bit too big, so because they're too big, I'm going to just cut down the wire a bit. Cuts it down a bit. It's all about just eyeballing it out. Always keep it long. It's always better to cut them shorter than to cut them too short and then regret it. You can also bend the stems to add into the, if you don't want to cut them, you can bend the stems under like that and add it to the box. I'll show you this one. It still goes into the foam. Also try and make sure that your colors are all complementary. This adds the beauty to your design. I have a little bit of rosewood in here just to add a pop of color. I'm just going to manipulate things a little bit so that I can create some flow. There you go. So here we go. This is my version of the fantasy flower hat box. I hope you like my design. I'd love to hear any print ideas that you might have in mind for flowers. So if you'd like to see any other flowers that you'd like to see me try and create, pop your message in the comments.